The intersection of endurance sport, health, fitness, and life. Challenging conventional ideas and empowering people with the science of self-propelled motion. This is the Endurance Experience Podcast, hosted by Tony Rich.
I find your story fascinating, because you come from a world where you don't think that a young black kid is going to get into chess at the level that you got into, right? Chess was that sport that maybe you saw the old guys playing in the hood. It wasn't like something everyone wanted to get into, but you played it, and you teach kids to play chess. What would you say is the one thing that changes in your mind when you start to learn chess, like that you apply in life?
That the other person is more important than you are.
Huh.
Right? Because we get inside our heads. We got our own opinions. This is me. This is my best ideas. It's like Democrats and Republicans talking across from each other, right? But when you play chess, you realize the other person has valid points, and you've got to really get inside their head more than anything else. So it's not my best idea that counts. It's your best idea. And how am I going to beat you is by really studying what you want. And that's where the deep strategy comes into the game.
I was reading chess books about famous players all around the world. I wanted to beat those players. It helped me to mature, think about calculations, analysis, data. The challenge with chess is with all these different pieces, the possibilities are incredibly complex. There are more possibilities in chess than atoms in the observable universe.
Those were just a few clips from interviews with Maurice Ashley, International Chess Grandmaster. And if that last statement you heard in his clip didn't completely blow your mind, let me say it again. There are more possible configurations on a chessboard than there are atoms in the observable universe. That's a pretty big number. For all you math nerds out there, that's about 10 to the 70 or 10 to the 80. Huge number. So it goes without saying that chess grandmasters are almost always deep thinkers and interesting people. To be good at what they do, they have to be very astute at things like logic, deductive reasoning, pattern recognition, classical game theory, decision-making under uncertainty, causality, or drawing conclusions from cause to effect, strategic and tactical implementation, and all of this in a very dynamic environment under time pressure. That's just one of the reasons to marvel at chess grandmasters. And to give you an idea of what you need to do to become a chess grandmaster, there's a lot of athletes who listen to this podcast. So just imagine this. Let's say you wanted to become a professional or elite athlete, marathoner, or triathlete. But before you could get that title, you first had to face in one-on-one competition the top of the top elite athletes on the planet Earth. Hundreds of them. And it wasn't enough to just make it high enough to be able to face them. You had to actually make it high enough to face them and then beat many of them. And only then could you ascend to the rank of professional athlete. That's the best that I can come up with to give you a good idea of what an international chess grandmaster has done based upon the chess rating and ranking system. So a friend introduced me to the game about 10 to 12 years ago, and I'm still pretty much slightly better than average. But I was awestruck at the parallels with not only athletics and competition, but also with life. And that's what I wanted to talk with Maurice Ashley about in this podcast.
And even if you don't play chess, you'll come out of the podcast with a greater understanding of how chess is often used as a metaphor for life. In fact, chess colloquialisms are used all of the time. You hear people say, oh, someone used someone as a pawn. That's very common. Or the concept of checking someone. Like, oh, she really checked him and, put him in his place. People don't understand that to check someone, that actually is from chess. And another common one, I'm playing chess, not checkers, to describe someone who's thinking strategically. And there's many more where that came from. So let's get it started and describe a little bit more about the origin story of Maurice Ashley. He is a product of Brownsville in Brooklyn, New York, and he cut his teeth at the Black Bear School of Chess. And in 1999, he earned the title of Grandmaster. And, by the way, he was the first Black American to achieve that distinction. And it's come to my understanding that that achievement has only since been expanded to only 2 other people who would achieve that distinction of Black Grandmasters. We talk about that in the podcast. And he was inducted into the United States Chess Hall of Fame. He no longer actively competes, but he is still very active in the chess community as a commentator. He commentates on chess matches with his own style and flair. He also has a couple of books, Chess for Success, The Most Valuable Skills in Chess, and Pawn Mower. And I'll put some of the links to those books and to Maurice Ashley's social media. I would encourage everyone to go out and follow him. And so it was a great conversation. We talk about how to think like a grandmaster and the distinction between what to think and how to think. And we talk about the parallels with chess and life and how understanding of those parallels can be helpful. I get his perspective on why we see such large disparities in chess with women and minorities. And I get his perspective on what can be done to close some of those gaps. We talk about the 10,000-hour rule and its relevance and whether achieving the level of mastery in a craft is born, learned, or a combination of both. We talk about the parallels between chess and athletic training. And this part of the conversation many of you will find interesting because we talk about the parallels with chess and things like competition, setbacks, loss, risk, analyzing competitors, among other parallels that exist between chess and athletic training and competition. And I also get his recommendations on how people can persevere through this very difficult climate that we have found ourselves in. I think just as a thinker, I wanted to get how he is looking at the nature of the world and what we need to do to come out of the end of this with some level of being in a better position. So, without further delay, I give you International Chess Grandmaster Maurice Ashley. I am on with Maurice Ashley. Thanks for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate it.
All right. I've been wanted to talk to you for some time because I think many of our listeners are athletes, strategists, health and fitness types, and I think a conversation with you would be very impactful. So, as a chess strategist and a grandmaster, I think there's many ways that
chess sort of runs parallel to real world applications for many types of people, including athletes and people who train, people who are competitive, but also just people in general life. And so I think the conversations, the meat of our conversations, can sort of rest in that. But also, I just want to get some general understanding of you, your background, and how you got involved in chess, and what it takes to be a grandmaster. So, if you can, just lay it out for our listeners that might be unfamiliar. Can you take some time talking about what a chess grandmaster is, and who inspired you, or what inspired you, and how long did it take you to ascend to that designation of grandmaster?
Well, my story is curious for sure, because I was born in Jamaica. I came to the United States when I was 12 years old. I learned how to play the game as a board game, just a general board game, with my brother and his friends. And they were just, because in Jamaica we had a lot of board games. We would play anything. Dominoes, checkers, which we call draughts, Ludi, which is a quintessentially Jamaican game, Monopoly, you name it. We didn't have a lot of TV back in the day, so we would play board games. And so I was always entranced by board games. I always found them fascinating. It wasn't until I came to the United States and went to Brooklyn Technical High School that I saw a friend playing chess, and I was always good at board games, so to speak. I thought I could just play him and beat him. And he crushed me. And I was in a library, and I saw a chess book, and I didn't know there were books on chess. So I took it out, studied the book, went back to that friend, and he crushed me again. And what had happened was he had read that book and a bunch of other books. And that's when I first realized how much knowledge was power. And I got hooked on the game. I started playing him. I started playing in the parks in New York. Chess has a big following in New York parks. Then I started going to the chess clubs in New York City. That's when I started finding about, including the books I was reading, the Grandmasters, the International Masters, the serious hardcore players of the game, and I wanted to be that good. So I just got totally entranced in the field, playing, studying, going to chess tournaments. I just got hooked. And the Grandmaster title, the path is really very simple. It's you have to beat other Grandmasters, other internationally ranked players. Mm-hmm. The International Chess Federation has a specific designation, a specific construct that you have to fulfill. Basically, it's like a lawyer trying to pass the bar.
Right.
But I liken it more to players in the NBA, for example. If you said, you know what, we're going to call you an all-star, but it's not going to be fan voting. It's not going to be player voting. It's not going to be coach voting. The way it's going to work is we're going to put you up against LeBron James, James Harden, Steph Curry, the Greek Freak. We're just going to line up all those guys, and you're going to play those guys. And we're going to put 10 of them in there. We're going to throw in AD. We're going to throw in the Joker. We're going to throw in everybody. Russell Westbrook. You go against those guys. If you go against 10 of them and you can beat 5, then we're going to call you an all-star. Let's say one-on-one. Then we're going to call you an all-star. Chess is just like that. You play against grandmasters in a tournament and internationally ranked players. You get a certain score based on their specific ranking, and then you get your first step. You got to do it 3 times. And then you truly officially say, you are now at the Grandmaster.
Right, right.
Took me, from when I started playing serious chess at age 15, took me another 18 years till I was 33 years old in order to accomplish it.
Wow.
And there were a lot of twists and turns in between.
Wow. That's incredible. And so you grew up in Brooklyn, and did you grow up in the Brownsville area?
Oh, yeah, Brownsville, East Flatbush.
Okay. Brownsville never ran, never will.
Oh, you know about that?
I know about that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I always say Mike Tyson grew up in Brownsville, and Brownsville was so rough, Mike had to get out of Brownsville, so you know what we had to go through.
Yeah.
It was tough. Nobody was playing chess except me and a few buddies. But thankfully, I was able to really fall in love with something and pursue it the way I did. And that obsession kept me off the streets, kept me out of trouble. if I was going to get in trouble. My mother was going to whip my tail if I did get in any trouble, but still, it kept me really focused on something I wanted to become.
Yeah, and there's legendary stories about people playing over the board in New York, and and I think it's a big difference where people play online now. So I've been playing online, and not a long time, maybe a decade or so, and so I know about the ELO rating and the rating. When you beat people that are good, your rating goes up, and if you lose people that are bad, your rating goes down. So I understand how hard it is to become a grandmaster, and so I think what advice would you give to someone who wants to ascend to that level? And at the same time, are these skills that are innate? Are they learned? There's this old question of skill, proficiency at something can be learned, or some people think the skills that you have, you were born with them. And so do you think that if someone spends enough time at something, regardless of what they were born with, they can achieve some of the same things that you've achieved?
I think that storyline is oversold.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think that without certain elements, you cannot become successful at anything. The biggest element for me is passion. Without passion, desire, love, obsession, if you will, for the activity that you're doing, you're not going to become elite at that activity. So I think that's a foundation for any kind of attempt at a really incredible goal, difficult, stringent, arduous goal that somebody might pursue. You need that. You need that kind of focus. But in terms of something like chess, I think that there is a talent base involved as well. You see kids who are 10, 11 years old showing enormous talent, like prodigious talent. They say that there are three fields where they're prodigies: is math, music, and chess. The three fields where kids can play at the same level as adults. And you can't tell the difference between a youngster performing it and an adult performing it, and a young prodigy, that is. You can't fake it in basketball. There's no 11-year-old who's going to play with players in the NBA. It's not going to happen. But in chess, you do have that. You have international masters even at that age. Grandmaster, the youngest grandmaster of all time, is a 12-year-old. So talent is definitely a part of it. No question about it. But I became a grandmaster at 33. I got introduced to the game late, and in terms of the serious aspect, in terms of playing in tournaments. I didn't play in a tournament until I was 15, much less talking about becoming a title player as such. So I believe in the greatest quote that I was ever told, the one that resonates to me in anyone who wants to be successful, was by a fellow grandmaster, Alexander Shabalov. This was before I became a grandmaster. He's a grandmaster from Latvia, but living in the States, representing the United States for many years, 4-time U.S. champion, in fact. And he had watched me play a game that if I had won, I would have become a grandmaster on the spot. I ended up losing the game. Afterwards, he said, "Don't worry about it. You'll get there. But remember this. In order to become a grandmaster, you must first be a grandmaster." And that really hit me, because what he was saying was that you don't ascend to the title. You put everything in place in your life so that you are studying the right way, working hard the right way, exercising the right way, reading the right kind of motivational books, reading the kind of literature that talks about developing the mind. You put everything in place so that you are, in fact, a grandmaster from your habits. That when you get to the tournament, you just take care of business in the tournament. Right. You just win the games you're going to win, because you're already doing that in practice. And that is something I feel happens with everyone. If you are not committing yourself 100% to your art form, to your sport, to your profession, you can't expect to be at that high level when when the moment comes, when you have to deliver. You have to do all of it, the work, beforehand. And so I preach that, yes, if you have the passion, if you have a certain set of skills, a talent within what your chosen field is, and usually you can feel it because it feels like you've been touched by something powerful that says, this is what you're going to do, then I think most people can become what they want to become.
Yeah.
Because I think that's like the pre-existing condition for greatness is the desire, true desire, not like a fake one where you just want it because maybe you're going to become famous or you're going to become wealthy. And I think are like, the ancillary benefits of success. But you're doing the thing that you feel the universe has touched you with wanting to do. And I think that most people, if they're ready to commit with that kind of focus and intensity to be instead of become, then I think most people, yes, can succeed.
Yeah. That's exactly what I thought you were going to say. I think we've heard about the 10,000 hour rule. In order to master something, you take 10,000 hours at it. So worth ethic wins. Wow.
Well,
that could be.
It's important. The 10,000 hours. I understand the concept. Who was the author? I'm forgetting his name. Malcolm Gladwell, exactly. So I understand Malcolm Gladwell coined this, and 10,000 is a nice round number. There's no number. There's clearly
of course,
magical.
Right. Yeah.
The point is the time you put in, and you have to put in the time no matter what. It has to get muscle memory. It's got to be something that it becomes automatic. But what it is it becomes internalized through your own dedication to practice. Mm-hmm. And again, practice is the hours actually doing the thing, but it's also the hours thinking about doing the thing. It's the hours spent not doing other things. Right? You can put in all that time.
Yeah.
Right, but if you're drinking every night, and you're trying to be a star athlete, then you're not sacrificing what you need to. You're not setting up the entire infrastructure necessary for you to become successful. So it's not just in the things you're doing, the thing you're deciding not to do, the negative things that will affect your performance. And not only that, it's the systems in place. Is your family with this? Is your spouse or your friends? Because they could easily work against you. Why are you spending so much time doing this activity? You're never going to do it. Look how long it's been taking. Are you sure we should be spending all this money on it? So it's an ecosystem that says, what makes this person an elite performer? It's because everything around them has been designed in such a fashion.
Right. And so that's a good answer. Now, on that, you will hear often I hear people say this all the time, Grandmasters see X moves ahead. They see 20 moves ahead, 30 moves ahead. I'm curious to know what your response to that is for you. How many moves ahead does a Grandmaster see?
There is no specific answer to that question because, for one thing, it's I want to say it's irrelevant, but it's not fair to say that. I want to poo-poo it. It's a great thing to tell people we can do. We can see many moves ahead, right? It's like you sound like a genius, a prognosticator, right? It's like, wow, you can do that. We can do things that are even more remarkable than seeing ahead. We can play chess blindfolded, right? So I played as many as 10 games without side of the board. You just call out the moves. I hear the move. I remember the move. As you have designations in chess: E4, pawn to C5, knight to F3, and then you just follow the moves mentally and play the whole game in your head. So Grandmasters are capable of doing that pretty readily, which means we can play the whole game. It could be a 50-move game, and we're still just following the game just by talking about it. I've seen people like LeBron James, for example, play a basketball game, and he remembers what happened at minute 38 in the game. He say, this at that moment when this pass was done, this is what should have happened. We didn't really cover the defense the way we should have. We should have rotated better on this play. And if you're deep into an art form, it's like a heart surgeon knowing every single chamber of the heart. You don't want a guy operating on you, and he's saying, "Oh yeah, bring out the book so I could take a look at what's underneath this ventricle right here." He's supposed to have it mapped in his mind, right? So a grandmaster is able to look as many as necessary in the given situation. It may happen that we have a position where you don't have to look any moves ahead. This is the right move. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just the right move. Mm-hmm. You play it and you wait for the response. But there are certain situations, very tactical situations, where it's a forcing a continuation. I might have to sacrifice my queen, a major piece, and I'm trying to deliver checkmate. If I sacrifice this piece and it's not checkmate, I'm going to lose because I'm going to be at a material deficit. I don't have enough stuff on the board because I gave you all my stuff. But because I'm checking you on every move, I can give you a queen, give you a give you a knight, give you a bishop. And at the end, I only have a pawn left. It's checkmate, but I had to foresee that in my head. I don't know that's what's going to happen beforehand. I have to check the sequence to see if it does happen. And it might be 5 moves, 10 moves, 15 moves, 20 moves. Most likely it's under 10, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it'd be a big strain all the time. But if it's more, we just calculate it. Now, we have tricks for facilitating the process as well, which is nice because you can chunk certain things and just see it without having to look ahead because you know this setup means only certain things can happen. So we have certain heuristic devices, if you will, that facilitate the process of calculating. Because calculating by itself is really best that computers do it. Humans, we need a few shortcuts, and we grandmasters have a bunch of.
Yeah, and in the short time that I've played relative to you, I see it, and I'm wondering if you see it this way, as a series of conditional moves, right? And people who code, for instance, can see it, can see this, where it's sort of like if this, then that, if this, then this or that, right? And that's sort of how you think about some of the moves.
Absolutely. It's important to recognize this, though. This is a really huge point. There was a study done by the scientist de Groot. He studied chess players, and what he did was he had people who were experts in the field. Now, expert in chess is a very specific designation. It's not just like a general catch-all phrase. He said, okay, experts, you take a look at this position. And then he took grandmasters who were 3 or 4 orders higher than this expert designation. You guys look at the position. And what he found was that experts looked at more than grandmasters did, which is counterintuitive because you think they're grandmasters. They see everything. Right. They're looking at all this stuff. But it turns out that grandmasters know what to look at.
Right.
Where to investigate as a potential line of success. Experts would look at stuff that grandmasters go, what are you looking at, man? That's going to lead you down a bad path. That's junk. Why would you even bother to look at that thing at all? It's not necessarily over-analysis. It's the inability to distinguish what is good and what is bad on a highest level, right? So the higher level performers, their best gift is to look at very little because they're already looking from experience, from knowledge, from study. They already know, where I should be looking? Where the light is shining. Like, it's over here. I'm not going to look all through this mess of irrelevant possibilities that are not going to work out to anything special because they don't speak to the essence of the position. We can go back to the physician analogy. Imagine you have a pain in your heart, and the first thing your doctor does is start looking at your feet. You're going to I need a new doctor, man, because the pain is right here. Well, the challenge for the grandmaster is to get to the heart of the matter, as opposed to try to look at the whole body to try to find a solution. That's what we do that facilitates the thinking process.
Yes. Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I can't talk about this. And one of the things that I found out, and I wonder if you see the same thing, is that when you make a mistake, a big mistake, which they call blunder, you're forced to realize or try to realize why you made that mistake. And in chess, it humbles you because when you make a big mistake, you just simply have to not dwell on the problem, the issue, and you just sort of have to try to fight with what you have. And that cultures your brain for the next time. And I'm wondering if some of that is some of the inputs that you have to your evaluation of a move, what not to do.
It's interesting. I want to first make this comment. Is a quote by a famous Grandmaster of old who said, "It often takes 40 moves to win a chess game, 40 good moves to win a chess game, but only one bad move to lose."
Yeah. Yes.
So you can play all these great moves. You're a super freaking genius. You're amazing. Look at what you're dropping on this player. And then you make one big mistake, that blunder you're talking about, and your whole game is shattered. It's completely irrelevant what you did before. You're dead in the water. Thankfully, humans are fallible. The reality is we are. So we make those mistakes. But the ultimate benefit to chess is that we learn. The lesson is losing is learning.
Mm-hmm.
Losing is learning. You have to confront your errors, analyze them carefully, try to figure out why it is that you made them, fix the problem, and don't make them the next time.
Right.
That is actually, I just gave a 5-step process. That's easier said than done, because it is very hard to fix issues when you have certain tendencies. As we know in life, certain tendencies stick, and you can make that mistake, and then you make the same mistake the next time, and you go, what is wrong with me? Am I an idiot? No, you're human. Right? So we do that. We analyze very carefully our errors as chess players, everyone on every level. If you play in tournaments and you want to do better. And that is where we try to learn those hard lessons so that we can do better for next time.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Let me ask you about this. I could ask you so many more questions about that. So I'll be here all day. So I understand that you've taught chess for many years, and many people don't know this, that you were actually you're in the Chess Hall of Fame, and you're also you have the distinction of being the first black Grandmaster. Is that right?
Correct.
Although there were probably Grandmasters on other continents. I mean, you can analyze this all day.
Well, I mean, it's important to recognize racial classification for what it is.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Right?
Classifications.
So, and also, was Barack Obama the first black president? And that's been its own bit of controversy as well, because if you go with the one-drop rule, then what does that mean?
Right.
Martin Harding, they even say Abe Lincoln had some stuff in him.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yes.
It's quickly a slippery slope. But you're often given the distinction of being the first black Grandmaster. So the reason why I'm asking is because we see large disparities in chess with women, with minorities, and I always wondered what your opinion was on this, on why we see these disparities, and how do we change it for young people, old people, or anyone who would want to start playing chess.
Well, it's important to acknowledge that these differences do exist and these disparities do exist. And I'd say you can't be what you can't see. That challenge rests in society itself. We need examples. Humans tend to need examples and role models in order to replicate the behavior, even though when you're the first, you don't have those role models, but there's going to be something different about that pioneer who breaks through the first time. But we don't want pioneers. Obviously, by definition, you can't have a bunch of pioneers in the same way, but you don't want people to be forced to reinvent the wheel constantly. That's not what you want. You want success to be which would say hereditary almost. It's part of an ingrained way of being among a group or among groups, among people. So the challenge with chess, I think, is historical behavior, historical patterns, much like in life. historical patterns. Certain countries took up chess a certain way, but also chess has historically been a leisure activity. It's not something that people have to do. It's something that they had time to do. And if you are busy working, long hours trying to survive, the people who became great at chess, they spend 5, 6, 7 hours a day on chess. That's what they do. When I was trying to become a grandmaster, I was spending 8, 9, 10 hours a day on chess.
Wow.
You need the resources to be able to pull that off. You need the time, right? Time and resources go together.
Yeah.
And you need the structure around you that supports that, including the societal structure as well. So part of the reason I didn't become a grandmaster at a certain point is because I didn't have the resources to pay a trainer, travel to tournaments all around the world, have the computer, laptop I needed, the internet connection, the databases, all that that you have to have in order to become excellent at chess. I fortunately, very fortunately, through a philanthropic organization that I was working for, that I had produced chess champions on the elementary school and middle school level, primarily middle school level with, the head of that foundation, a gentleman by the name of Dan Rose, he heard about my story. I reached out to him and he said, you know what, I know you want to become a grandmaster. I'm willing to sponsor that, which meant giving me the resources for me to be able to pursue it in full. And within 17, 18 months of getting those resources, I got the title. So part of it is resource. It's resource intense. But also part of it is societal. Mm-hmm. You don't get a lot of black people playing chess, so then you don't get a lot of black success in chess. You don't see a lot of the examples, so it becomes this virtuous cycle, right? You get stuck. Also, when you talk about women have often been relegated to not competing with men in every field.
Yeah.
You start naming it, women are pushed to the side, or they're treated a different way. And you see that happen in chess. It's not just in chess, but in just about everything. If you think about competition, okay, in sports, now we see more involvement of women as you look at basketball, for example, in the WNBA, but they're not getting paid the same as their male counterparts. Tennis is probably the best example for women, but mostly it's not the case. So take soccer, for example. Women are not supported that way. So if you take think about soccer and basketball, and now do the same to chess times 10. Because there's no money in chess. There's very limited money in chess. So the elite players get it. Those lower down the totem pole have to struggle.
Yeah. Now, keep me honest. There's no women's chess federation. There's only one federation that's.
There's only one international chess federation, but there are women titles, surprisingly, right? So you can become a women's grandmaster, a women's international master, and people say, well, why would you need anything like that? Again, traditionally, women have not been supported in competition, and so if you look at the numbers now, it's 90% male, 10% female. Wow. I'm being generous, in fact.
Wow.
So if you have those kind of numbers, lack of participation, and lack of support, a lot of parents, when their girls are 9, 10 years old, they're not having them hanging out with guys playing chess. That's just not how it's going to work, right? Just you go across societies. There are very few countries that actually got that right. Places like Georgia, the country of Georgia, Republic of Georgia, got that right. So you get a lot of champions coming out of Georgia. In Hungary, we had the example of the Polgar sisters, three girls who ended up being superstars in chess because their parents pushed them into chess heavily. But the people around them said, what are you doing? You're going to destroy the character of your girls. You're going to retard their development. You're trying to make chess players out of your girls. That's not good for them. Father and mother went ahead and did what they did, and the kids are now women, successful. Judith became one of the top 10 players in the world, broke all kinds of records. And they're all stable, regular moms now, a couple of kids each, and living great, productive lives. So I think there has been this perception that certain people can excel, and that has manifested itself in reality for different reasons, as I mentioned. Solving it, bigger I mean, solving it is fairly easy. Support those people in those fields. That's really what it comes to. Now, I say the solution itself might be easy, but the implementation is going to be much, much more difficult.
Yeah.
We know what to do, but are we going to do it, and do we have the will to in something like chess? We're not doing it in other ways, so chess is suffering from the same problem.
Right. And we should mention, too, that you have a number of books, right? What are the names of your books so that the listeners, if they really want to get some expert understanding from a grandmaster, what are the names of your books that have the best range of knowledge for someone wanting to learn?
Well, the one I would say for the people who are beginners and really want to get the basics down is called The Most Valuable Skills in Chess. And that breaks down just the basic skills you got to have. Without it, you can't play chess at all. And that's the one I would direct it to. My other book, Chess for Success, is a book for educators, administrators, principals, as to why chess is great for young people. And I spend a whole book arguing that what most people could just guess at. Yeah, of course it's good for young people. Didn't even need to write the book to tell everybody that. But there's some people who feel like chess is just a board game and has no transformative value, otherwise, or pedagogical value. I have other puzzle books. Pawn Mower is a set of puzzles that help to refine the mind. It's along the line of Sudoku, a puzzle that I invented. I'm coming out with an app, which will be fun.
What's
Maurice Ashley Teaches Chess, or Match.
Nice.
You like that? Yeah, I know, right? But that will be coming out soon. Look for it. Go to my website or check out my Instagram, social media places, and you'll find when I announce exactly when it's going to come out. And you can go to match/chess.com and sign up for when it's actually going to come out next. So match-chess.com.
Yeah. All right. I will put all the links to those, and as well as Maurice's social media in the show notes, so people will have that. I think there is transformative properties with chess. I definitely saw it, and learning online too. I mean, nowadays you can play online. You can sort of get clues on how the chess pieces move and such, and some of the websites where you can play online, the time limit is sometimes days, so you can take days.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And when you have days to actually figure out the optimal move, it's a little different, but it's good to learn. That's how I learned, and
I'd like to make. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to make a very big point because I want this to get across before we stop. That you talked about chess, about losing earlier.
Yeah.
And there's something that is really important that has happened to our society that I feel is absolutely a negative towards the growth of the society as a whole, that we experience on the micro level in chess. And that is this idea of failing. If you fail these days, you're going to hear about it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Everybody and their mama is going to know that you fell flat on your face. And what that has contributed to, by and large, is a sort of risk-averse society, because you just don't want to make that big mistake that's going to make you look foolish. I mean, there's so much societal pressure on kids. You get the rise of suicides among young people because they're just being harangued in front of their peers for any flaw. We're not allowed to have flaws right now. Any mistake is just, you're going to get cut up with a knife. But what we learn in chess is that failure is growth. Learning from your failure. You have to make those mistakes in order to grow. And so if failure is growth on the individual level, failure is growth on the societal level as well. You need to be ready to take chances. You need to be willing to push the boundaries. Tiger Woods redid his swing even when he was hyper successful and ended up losing tournaments, ended up not performing at that same high level for about 18 months. And people are like, why'd you change your swing, man? You look stupid doing that. But he had that mental fortitude to say, I need to improve. And then 18 months later, boom, it was on another level and suddenly playing golf, winning everything. Like, what happened? It finally clicked. And so I just want to make this point for your listeners that whatever chances you need to take, banking on your growth, even if it means you're going to fail, and you may even fail spectacularly in the short term, be ready to embrace that for the long term. It's part of your growth. It's part of what you need. And don't listen to the haters.
Right.
And you might have to leave social media for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, as a coach, as an athlete, you'll often hear people provide, sometimes they convince themselves that they can't do something. They convince themselves that they can't do something either because of some roadblock or some other person. I didn't have this, I didn't have that. I can't perform as well as other runners. I have short legs, or I can't be a great swimmer because I have short arms. Or always a reason why they can't do something. And I think what chess does, it forces you especially when you're down, it forces you to just fight with what you have. Fight with what you have. You may be down some material. Your position is broken, and you're trying to just fight. You're forced to fight with what you have, and oftentimes, as you know, you can be down material and still win.
Yes, actually, I have my dear departed friend Ronald Simpson, who I played with here in Brooklyn. He was one of the important warriors that I used to battle in the parks and at each other's homes. And he had one of his favorite saying was, the will to win is greater than any material deficit. And that's the kind of warrior attitude he had, the gladiator spirit. I don't care if I'm flat on my back, I'm missing an arm. You come with it, or else I'm taking you down.
Right.
And I think that people trust reality a little too much.
Yeah.
Right. It's the dreamers that change things. And the famous quote, if you think you can't, then you're right.
Right.
Well, you've got to get your mind right. And that's the part of being a grandmaster. If you're going to become.
Yeah. Right. And in parallel to that, I wanted to talk to you about we've talked about many of them already, the parallels between chess and athletics and performance. And many people don't know that you have actually a famous sister, right? You have a boxer who's a sister who's a boxer. I
have a sister who's a 6-time world champion boxer. My baby sister Alicia, 6 times, yeah. And my brother Devon is actually a 3-time world champion kickboxer. So I always say I'm the least accomplished person in my family because I'm only a grandmaster. I never made the world championship title, and they have. Although they're jealous of me for other reasons, so we're very competitive as a family.
Yeah, I see that. So the parallels, obviously, we've been talking about the parallels between chess and life, and for the athletes. So let's say you're in your competition days. What are some of the things that you do? You used to do in competition that would be very similar to an athlete training and preparing. I'm thinking of things like, for instance, did you have, a coach? Do grandmasters have coaches? I mean, with all of the computing power here, I mean, I would want to have a scientist, a developer to pull up openings and variations. What are some of the things that you used to do that might, an athlete might be able to take from it?
Well, it's kind of funny because I would also ask what are the things athletes do that we can take from as chess players. We beg, borrow, and steal whatever we could in order to perform better. Mm-hmm. So Coach, absolutely. You need somebody who will look at your game, see where the flaws are, even if they're not as good as you, but they have the eye for it. It's like a coach in sports.
Yeah.
They can see what's happening, why it is that you broke down in a given situation, where your tendencies that you need to fix, and suggest prescriptive methods that you may not have even thought of, but they've seen over the years because they've been through the wars as well, and they can give you direction. They're not going to do it because they're not going to spend the 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day doing that work, but they can tell you that work now. Or maybe they're older now and they're in a different part of their career. Mm-hmm. In terms of fitness, chess players are fitness hogs. We got to be fit.
Yeah.
Your mind follows your body. And if you get tired while you're trying to think, 5-hour game, 6-hour game, you're done. You're just going to get fatigued and you're going to miss something, and that's it. One little thing you miss, this one mistake I said out of the 40 moves, and you're off the cliff. So staying fit physically, working out of the gym, running, swimming, biking, you name it, to keep the blood pumping, to stay fresh, because it's not going to be just this one game of 5 or 6 hours. It's going to be tomorrow and the next day for 9 straight days. You've got to be fit for that. Meditation. Getting your mind as strong as possible through any activities that you use, whether it be meditation, whether it be reading, something I used to love to do, books, motivational books, stealing from some motivational techniques of the best minds. It could be a Deepak Chopra, Tony Robbins, you name it. Who's going to help your mind be right? Because the mind is the key, the power of the mind. You can have the greatest body in the world, but I put you under pressure in the final seconds of a game where you have to deliver right now. You know the people who pass the ball right there, right there.
Right.
I don't want to take that shot, and they don't even know they're doing it. They're just not comfortable with failure and with pressure. Speaking of which, by the way, one secret I'll give to you that a lot of people don't think of, particularly athletes. I coached a pro quarterback, guy who's been in the NFL for a few years, and he wanted some advice. Mm-hmm. And one big advice I gave him was on the topic of pressure. A lot of people think that there are people who perform better under pressure, and studies say no. Studies say that almost no one performs better under pressure. What happens is the elite performers treat high-pressure situations as they would normal, everyday situations. In other words, they are always a grandmaster at every moment in time. Whether it's waking up, whether it's casually training, they train for the high-pressure situation, so that when they get to it, it's like, oh yeah, this is what I normally do. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordans of the world, those guys are the elite performers who just do what they normally do, no matter if you put a gun to their head and say, you're gonna slice them up and kill their kids, and their brain is the same place. Okay, what do I have to do? Take a jump shot? Really? I'm just gonna do that. They embrace those situations because while others shy away from it because others think about it. Oh, I only have 1 second left, 2 seconds left. They shoot quicker. Oh my God, I got to hurry. They overshoot. They overthink. The art of finding your peace in any moment, whether it be the minute 1 of the game or in case of basketball, minute 48, it's all the same. Mastering that art is what elite performers have to learn to do. Right.
I can definitely see that confidence, preparation, repetition, and in the early days, I can imagine that if you wanted to analyze your competitor, you probably had to do a lot of work to figure out some of the things that they did before the internet. Now that we have the internet, you play a match, the results is out to the internet in hours, days, right?
What do you mean? People are watching you live.
Yeah, live, right?
Chess.
Live stream.
In chess, we have apps. The best player in the world is playing right now. Let me see what he's doing.
Right.
It's instantaneous. The boards are digitized. The moves are being transmitted instantly.
Yeah.
online and you have no secrets like you had back in the day. You could have a new idea and milk that sucker for months before it was published in magazines. Now you can't even do it for one day without it being published. Yeah. And so it's gotten easier to know your competition, but they know you easier too. So it becomes that much harder for you to really significantly separate yourself from the rest of the competition.
Right. But there's something to take from that too, is, if you're going into a match with a Grandmaster, I want to know everything that they've done. I want to know all their openings. I want to know how they play, their weaknesses. And I think this is one of the things that athletes have to do, insofar as they're competitive athletes. They have to know your competitors, study the competitors, and insofar as possible, try to keep what you do close to your chest. That's why I say a lot of times athletes will broadcast what they do to the world, to social media. I say, look, don't tell the world what you're doing. You're showing your hand.
Well, we have that in chess as well, of course, and you have to keep your secrets because you may have a new move that you obviously don't want anybody to know. If they know it, they can prepare for it. Yeah. So definitely the same thing happens in chess. You see many situations, actually. One guy fired his seconds because he suspected that there was information being leaked to the other side. I mean, it was like a Spygate, right? Man, how did my opponent know this move was coming? It must have been you. Bam, you're fired. So we do care very much about knowing the opposition intimately. We don't just want to know what moves they play. We want to know their preferences off the chessboard.
Really?
Absolutely. I mean, what kind of person are you personally, right? Are you a risk taker by nature? You own stocks, or you put your money in the bank and just waiting for that 1% interest, right?
Right.
I want to know because I know when the pressure's on, how are you going to treat a complex situation? Are you going to run to safety and play the safety moves? Or are you going to try to sacrifice a piece and get wild and aggressive and take me into the dark forest where 2 + 2 = 5 and the path out is only wide enough for one? Like, that's what a famous quote from Mikhail Tal, who was one of the greatest gladiators in chess. Like, are you ready to go down the battlefield where it's crazy and wild and chaotic? Or are you going to wimp out and play safe chess?
Yeah.
So, we want to know. I want to know your personality in other ways as well, because that might give me a window into the secrets of how your mind works and give me a chance to react. It's only going to take one move, remember?
Yeah.
If I get you to make that one mistake, you could go all the way down. So if I can figure something else about how you are in your personality, that could help me to craft a strategy or defeat you in that critical moment.
Yeah. Now, is there a player from the past or present that if you had the opportunity to play them, I know it's hypothetical, but if you could play somebody from the past or the present, who would you play?
The person I just quoted, Mikhail Tal.
Yeah.
Mikhail Tal, he was a gangster on the chessboard. Like, he would throw pieces at people, meaning give them away, and people say, you can't do that. Chess doesn't allow for you to give up a rook or a knight or a bishop liberally like that. I'm taking it. And he would weave some masterful attack. Pieces started coming down from the sky and dropping bombs on your position. Mm-hmm. You say, how did he pull that off? All because I took his piece? It's like, that's right. He would punish people. Later, the computers looked at it and realized that some of it was bluff, some of it was mistakes. Back in the day, they would take 2 weeks to solve why his moves were wrong. Computers now can show why his moves are wrong in seconds. Mm-hmm. But you don't have 2 weeks. I'm sitting in front of you. You better figure it out at the board. And with a clock ticking you down, it's not going to happen. Now, the games you're talking about, correspondence games where you can take days, well, okay, he wouldn't survive that. But, man, he had some beautiful attacks, and I really relish those.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'll have to look him up. I've not because now.
Oh man, you don't know about Tal? Oh
no, I have to look.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. They call him the Wizard from Riga, the magician from Riga. Stuff he used to do. He's from Latvia. The capital of Latvia is Riga, and he had some stuff.
Yeah, Well, now you can load anyone with PGN. You can load anybody's games into any online application. So I'll have to do that.
I'm gonna Google you and see what you've been doing.
Oh, you don't want to see that. I've been playing. I mean, 10 years. And the thing about playing online is you can see exactly how many games you've played. I've only played about 3,000 games total over, and
that's more than enough.
Yeah,
that means we can profile you down.
I got what?
Send you your psychological profile in a couple of weeks.
18. I think my ALO rating is close to about 1,800, 1,900. Okay, and okay, so let's finish up and finish up with just to get your, with the state of the world, what's going on. I just want to get your final opinion on things like this global pandemic. We have protests, racial unrest, things going on in life. What would be your final message to the listeners? Just as a thinker, and someone who is a deep thinker about how to get through tough situations in life. What would be your message?
Twofold. At the moment, there are a lot of challenges in the world. There are those who are thriving while others are just surviving. It's important to get into that thriving mindset because of the second thing I'm going to say, which is this too shall pass. So I never get caught in the moment, never get caught in, or I try not to get caught in what's happening at present, because the end game is not now, it's later. And so you have to prepare for what's to come by doing your best, being that grandmaster in the present. So there's no panic. There's stress, part of life. There's pressure, part of life. But it's important to recognize that this too shall pass. And if you're going to have impact, you need to thrive. You need to take any negative situation and turn it around, look at it, inspect it for the positive possibilities that you can take from it, the positive actions. Because this too shall pass, and you'll be left dropping the ball if later you say, man, I could have been doing X, Y, Z while that was going on. Instead, I was wallowing in self-pity or under stress or everything else. So, I hate to say it, but I've been thriving in the last 6 months because it's taught me new things. I'm not trying to get back to normal. I'm trying to be better. When this all ends, I'm trying to be in a better place. And that's how we all should think. We don't want to just survive. We want to thrive.
All right. Thank you so much, Maurice Ashley. This was a pleasure. And I will place all of the links to Maurice's social media in the show notes. And I can't wait for the app to come out. And thanks again for coming on to the podcast. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks again to Maurice Ashley. It was a great pleasure to sit down and have a conversation with him. And again, I encourage everyone to go out and connect with him on social media. So go to the show notes now to do that. A couple of thoughts from the podcast to finish up on. As I listened to the conversation again, I just wanted to point out some final things that people can come away with. One of them was relating to Maurice's comments in his interview with Trevor Noah about how we are in an environment of polarized people talking past each other. I certainly echoed those comments. In chess, there are openings or standardized ways of moving that have been previously vetted as sort of optimal starting strategies. They have names like the Scandinavian, Queen's Gambit, the Danish Gambit, the Sicilian Dragon, and many, many others. Really good chess players know these openings cold, and in so doing, when they meet opponents, they are better able to mount defenses and counter attacks. This is something that I think everyone thrusted into this polarized conversation environment today can learn from. Instead of grafting on to some groupthink narrative, some hashtag or slogan, or incrementally building yourself and retreating into some echo chamber, perhaps you take a page from the Grandmaster and study your opponent's positions. Learn their best arguments. Study their weaknesses. And try to, in a sense, quote unquote, steel man their positions. The steel man was popularized by the philosopher Dan Dennett, being the opposite of a straw man, or to trivialize someone's argument. So in conversations and debates, you steel man your opponent's arguments in the same way that a Grandmaster might study and know cold their opponent's openings. In doing so, you just might be able to get insight of someone else's perspective, or even persuade people who would otherwise disagree with you. And finally, Maurice Ashley talked about preparation and things that athletes can learn from in order to succeed. And he even used the words, setting up your infrastructure to succeed. And that reminded me of one of my favorite quotes in chess, is by probably one of the most famous chess players, Bobby Fischer. The quote is, "Tactics flow from a superior position." So whether it be in chess, athletics, fitness, or in other aspects of your life, both Maurice's and Bobby Fischer's statements mean the same thing to me, and that is, you need to take steps to set yourself up to succeed, and perhaps the optimal moves may begin to reveal themselves and materialize in front of you, leading to great performances and gains, whatever that means to you. Thank you for listening.
Follow Event Horizon Endurance Sport on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for training programs and services. To become a member of our Endurance Institute or for a complete archive of podcasts, log on to our website, eventhorizon.tv.